What is up, guys? Back at it again with another video. I don't really do a lot of reaction videos, but when you have a guy like Greg Doucette saying that the second place finisher at the amateurs at the Arnold is better than the fourth place finisher at the Open and 2019 Mr. Olympia, Brandon Curry, I gotta make a video about that. So he doesn't outright say he's better in terms of beating him, but he's comparing these two guys, an amateur versus former Mr. Olympia, pose for pose. And he's saying that his amateur guy has some poses over freaking Brandon Curry. Are you drunk? Are you actually insane? Are you senile? Are you good, bro? How old are you? 50? We're going to check it out and see if his opinion holds any weight. But original videos down below if you guys want to check it out in its entirety between, me pausing, give my opinion. If you don't want to hear me pausing and give my opinion, then you can watch it and just disregard whatever I'm saying. So let's go ahead and check it out.
And so you tell me, as a casual observer, watching them pose side by side, does Eric hold his own against one of the best professional bodybuilders in the world?
Eric's a big guy. He's a big dude. Second place at the amateurs. Competed last year. What was it, at the USA's or Nationals or something? Came fourth and retired from that point. For whatever reason, he decided to come out of retirement 6 months later, do the Arnold's, which was about 2 weeks ago. And he didn't win his pro card, but he came second. Second place, very respectable. So I don't think he is a bad bodybuilder. I just don't think he should be compared next to someone like Brandon Curry, for example.
Coach Greg, and in today's video, people are saying Eric Janicki is a failure yet again. After all, he just recently came out of retirement to win his IFBB Pro card, but yet he couldn't pull off the win. And so you may remember that perhaps 5 or 6 months ago, he placed 5th in his last competition.
Oh, I'm sorry, he didn't place 4th, he placed 5th. I thought he came 4th at his last attempt to turn pro. He came 5th. 5th in what? Overall? 5th in his division? I don't know. But he placed 5th and he didn't win. So he didn't win his pro card. But not to say that he can't. Like, he's a big dude. He has all the muscle in the world to win his pro card. It's just about, in my opinion, coming in shredded out of his mind and peaking. Like, that's kind of what it is. Obviously, these guys, they play the drug game. I don't play the drug game. 100% natural. Forever be natural. Not that there's anything wrong with taking steroids. If you want to take steroids, do whatever you want. I don't care. I'm just making it clear that I don't know about the drug world. I understand tests and whatever, but I've never taken it. So I'm not going to act like I know how to peak a drug athlete or what that entails. But in terms of size and what I can see in terms of following bodybuilding for the last 15 years of my life, the guy has a lot of size. Just peaking correctly, coming in a bit leaner, man. Like, the glutes were a bit soggy, to be honest.
Failing to win his IFBB Pro card. And since that time, he had retired. The only one I know that came back quicker out of retirement than Eric Janicki is Chris Bumstead, who competed 3 weeks after his final Olympia. In his last competition, he ended up getting second. And because of that, many people...
Chris Bumstead got second, or Eric Janicki. Which one are you talking about?
Will say, you blew it. You failed. You don't have the physique worthy of being an IFBB pro. I mean,
he definitely has the physique. Like, there's some horrible pros out there. There's pros. There's people who don't even. Well, I'm not one to say who deserves what. I'm not gonna go down that road. In terms of what I think is a pro caliber physique, there's people who hold a pro card that, in my opinion, shouldn't be holding pro cards. I think Eric is more deserving than a lot of those people. So he has muscle. He has all the tools he needs. It's just, bro, you got to be peeled out of your mind, especially when you go up against a guy like the Freak of Nature who won. What is the guy's name? I don't even know, but the guy's like Tony Freeman-esque with the small waist and quads and big arms and stuff. It's crazy.
If you did, then why didn't you win? And Eric, he's not one to pull any punches. He doesn't blame anyone. He had great conditioning. He had the size. And so what?
For an amateur, yes. Very, very good conditioning. Not knocking the guy in terms of he wasn't lean or whatever. We can all be leaner. My last show I competed, what was it? 5 or 6, 4 months ago? I don't even know. A couple months ago. I could have been leaner. 100%, we all could be leaner. But in terms of what he presented, it was good. It just wasn't good enough to win.
Was it? How is it possible that Eric Janicki could look that good and not come out on top? On Bodybuilders Without Borders, the caption reads, should Eric continue competing?
The guy has some really big quads. Like, we got to acknowledge the quads. Like, Juicy quad.
Eric Janicki placed second in the competitive super heavyweight class. Should he continue to pursue his pro card or back to be an Instagram bodybuilder? His words. Let's see what the comments say. What do the people think? Yes, tweaks to posing is all.
So he kind of just goes through the first portion of the video here, just kind of talking about Eric. I think it's Janicki. Keep messing up the last name. I don't even know. I just want to skip to where he does the direct comparisons. What is this? Like, this is a
than Eric, bigger than Eric, had a smaller.
So this is the guy that beat him. Not a good showcase of a pose or anything. I wonder if I can get like a better shot. The taller, dark-skinned dude next to him is the guy that
national
won.
Championships. It's the best of the best.
And I mean, Eric is not a bad bodybuilder at all. Like, he's a big freaking dude. But like I said, this is like Tony Freeman 2.0. Now, even the guy that won, he could have been leaner. I saw photos of him on Instagram. He was good enough to win. Definitely not good enough to win a pro show, but this isn't a pro show. He doesn't need to be super ultra peeled. I think moving forward, though, when it comes to a pro debut, doesn't really matter what I say, but just offering what I think off of my head. If he wants to win, he can win right now. He just needs to be more peeled. That's it. Like, the guy is out of the oven. So Eric just happened to be competing against a freaking phenom. Like, I don't even know what to tell you. Anyone else who showed up in this spot that Eric is in probably would have still came second no matter what. Like, the guy is insane that actually won the show, honestly.
Best from people around the world. And in this competition, there was a freak. He's taller than Eric, bigger than Eric, had a smaller waist, and looked amazing. The guy that beat Eric.
I don't know why homeboy lifted up his left leg like that. I don't know what you're doing with that, bro. I mean, hugging a man on stage when you're 99% naked and then you're going to lift your leg up, like, come on. It's bodybuilding. I'm just joking. Like, relax. This is fine. Whatever. I don't care.
Already, I see him as a threat as an IFBB pro. Guys, all you can do is show up and compete at your best. You can't control anyone else. At almost any other competition, this physique, it would have been enough to earn an IFBB pro card. And in
100% agree. Like, honestly, any show, put him in the USA, put him in the Nationals, put him in the North Americans. Apparently, like, the Mr. Universe is natural, but the NPC Mr. Universe, I mean, I don't know if he would be able to compete there. I don't know what their protocol is for natural athletes and what they're trying to do with that specific show. But honestly, any other show where you can qualify for a pro, this guy would have won his pro card. He picked the Arnolds. It's not an easy show to win, especially when you have a freaking nature like Tony Freeman 2.0 showing up and decimating everyone without conditioning. Like, that's crazy.
In case you're thinking, oh, you're just glazing him because he's your friend. Coach Greg, he's talking out of his ass.
Good,
he
man.
sucks up to the people that he likes. Let's see how he stacks up against, I don't know, a former Mr. Olympia champion, a guy that just got 4th place at the...
All right, so this is where, like, Greg loses it. So he's going to make a comparison between, and I kind of stopped the video here. After the first comparison, I'm like, you know what, I gotta record, like, what this guy says, and then we dissect it, because there's no way that you are comparing Eric Janicki, a guy that came second at the Amateur Arnold, to a 4th place finisher in the Open. The guy that won the Olympia 2019, like, there's no way. So what are you going to say about this? I'm really curious.
Arnold Classic placed just behind Derek Lunsford, Samson Doda, and Andrew Jack. Brandon Curry posing with Eric Janicki.
Which, honestly, Brandon at the Arnold, yo, I don't know what he did. He brought it. Brandon at the Arnold freaking brought it. That's probably one of the best Brandons I've seen. Probably since winning the Olympia initially, and then winning I think he won on the Arnold, and what was it? Was it 2020 or 2021? He won the Arnold. That was a really good look as well. This is a very, very good Brandon behind those 2 last looks. He actually had, like, detail in terms of vascularity and even some graininess to his quads, like I've never really seen it from Brandon before. So this is a very good Brandon.
Both having competed at the same weekend. Let's see. I mean, we're giving it to you straight. They're not out-angling each other. They're standing side by side. And so you tell me, as a...
Greg needs to clear the spit from his mouth before he records every single video, because every single video I watch of him, it's like he has a bunch of spit in the back of his throat. Like, it's just, I don't know, a little pet peeve, I suppose. Like, it doesn't matter. If your mouth generates that much spit, then fair, bro. At least empty it before you record because I don't really want to be looking at someone's mouth covered in spit. No hate, but just reacting as I'm watching the video as I should be, right?
As a casual observer, watching them
See, now you can't unsee the spit too. You're welcome.
pose side by side. Does Eric hold his own against one of the best professional bodybuilders in the world?
Does he?
First up, the most muscular. They looked very
Let's actually get them into the pose.
very close in size.
Okay, that's probably the best we're going to be. So in terms of size, Eric is a big freaking dude. No one is contesting his size. He's a big guy. Like, he has all the size in the world that he needs to be competitive, in my opinion. But you're putting him up against like genetic anomalies like Brandon Curry. I mean, I'm sorry, but the waist that Brandon has versus like the roundness and everything, like the back and the structure. Eric is a good bodybuilder, but he's not Brandon Curry. But let's see what Greg thinks.
Brandon Curry perhaps has better shape, smaller waist, wider shoulders, but Eric
Probably has better shape. Probably. Yo, no hate to Eric, but I mean, Brandon has one of the smallest waists out of the last, I don't even know, 10 Olympia champions. Dexter probably had a smaller waist than Brandon. I mean, I would even argue that he had a smaller waist than Sean Roden. Like, look at Brandon Curry back in 2019. Look at that front double bicep. Look at that front lat spread. Compare the waist to anyone else. Like, the only people that can contest him in terms of waist, who? Dexter, Sean. Phil's waist in like 2011, 2012. After that, it kind of just got a little too big. Who else? Derek had a small waist, but that was after Brandon. Guess it doesn't matter. Brandon has one of the smallest waists out of any Mr. Olympia ever. Like, what do you mean probably? He does.
he seems to have equally, if not better, arms and more detail in his chest. Next up, the side chest. Again, Brandon Curry, a little bit.
Like, I see what Greg is trying to do. Eric is a big guy. But I mean, come on. Like, I'm not hating. I just don't see how this is a comparable pose. Like, I see Brandon, who is a former Mr. Olympia. In terms of chest size, like, there's a bit more detail. Arm separation, a bit more arm separation. Brandon's arm from the side looks a bit more bigger. Bicep is a bit more peakier. Although I would give Eric a thicker bicep from the side. What do you want? You want peakier biceps from the side or thicker biceps from the side? I don't really know. But Brandon looks bigger. Brandon looks more conditioned, especially through the chest. Now, obviously, like how they hit the pose and as much as they squeeze, like that's going to be a factor. But like I don't see how this is close.
More width, but perhaps he's twisting a little bit more to the side. Eric Janicki standing a bit more side on.
Okay.
And Brandon Curry has a little bit of a twist, giving him more width. But if we're
Fair.
looking at arm size, delts, chest, it's very close. And in this pose, I would say Eric's waist looks even smaller. Next, the side tricep pose. Guys, are you seeing this? And if anything, I would say Brandon is slightly closer to the camera.
It's actually a really good pose for Eric. This is one of the poses where his waist doesn't matter because he sucks it in. Obliques are tight. He has a very, very good tricep head. Big shoulders. Chest is not small. Like I said, the guy is big. He's a big dude. He's a bodybuilder. It's freaking 265 on stage. Like, he's big. He's not like Nick Walker big, but yeah, can he match up to like a Brandon Curry? Can he match up to like James Hollingshead? Yes, like the guy is big. But Brandon looks different. Like, there's a certain texture to the skin. There's a certain bubbliness to the muscle. I don't know, man. It's slight, but it makes a difference.
Remember, if you're judging size, it's all about the angles. If you get closer to the camera, you're going to look that much bigger. And so my honest opinion is that Eric looks just as good in this tie tricep pose. Eric's chest is thick. His obliques are tight. They're shredded. His abs look amazing. And he has excellent tricep development. Both men have strided delts. And so if you didn't know any better, and I was to show a random person off the street and say, look at these two guys. They both placed top 5 at the Arnold's. You'd think, wow, these guys look incredible. Amazing looking pros. Would you immediately say, wow, the guy on the right, he's clearly a pro. The guy on the left, he'll never get a pro card. He clearly should hang up the trunks. What would you say? And
I mean, yes, if you ask someone on the road that has no previous bodybuilding knowledge, what do they think about two physiques that they're looking at? They're not going to even know what they're looking at. What is the difference? You have a big guy full of muscle, that's another big guy full of muscle you're trying to compare. One is white, one is dark. What is the difference? Like, they have a lot of muscle. Someone off the street, they're not going to be able to differentiate, what am I even looking at? Like, what is the difference between his triceps versus that tricep? What is the difference between his chest striations versus that one? What is the difference between his abs versus the other guy's obliques? Like, what am I looking at? They're just two big guys. When you have a fan or a judge or someone that's actually been in the sport 5, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever, a judge, competitor, they're going to know the difference. They're going to see clearly the fine details of Brandon's physique versus Eric's. Yeah, I mean, taking someone off the street, I mean, okay, let's say, like what? Like, well, what can I compare this example to make it make more sense? I don't even know, like cream color paint versus like pearl white. I don't know, it doesn't matter. But to an expert, they can say the cream color paint, like that has more aesthetic appeal with the lighting and stuff. But if you just walk into a room and they're both white walls, one is a bit more creamier, I don't care. I don't know that much about paint to differentiate anything. An expert does. Like anyone off the street, any time that they don't know much about anything, you ask them their opinion, how valid is that opinion? But Greg is running with that, so it's fine.
Remember, be perfectly honest. 4th place professional versus 2nd place amateur. Back double bicep, you can see Brandon Curry, he has a smaller waist. Eric Janicki, I do believe he has more detail, more grooves.
Yeah, Eric back is quite thick. Brandon, yeah, so this comparison is crazy. I think Eric takes this, which is wild, but Eric freaking takes this. Like, his back for some reason just looks super thick here. Brandon's back is shallow as hell. At least in this gym footage that they're posing in a gym, right? Now, I know how Brandon's back look on stage. It doesn't look like this. Bigger, wider, thicker. He has one of the best backs in the Olympia. In terms of the top 4, he has a better back than Andrew, in my opinion. Can he match up to Derek? No. In terms of conditioning, no. But in terms of size, yeah. Does he have a better back than Samson? Yeah. Brandon has a great back. This is gym posing. Guys in the gym, they look great. Put them on stage, it's a different story. Guys on stage look great. Put them in the gym like Brandon's a different story. I don't know why that happens, but it is what it is. If you're looking at this specific comparison, Eric looks insane. Shoulders are more striated, arms look bigger, back is thick as hell, looks bigger than Brandon. He looks like the pro, Brandon looks like the amateur. We know in our head, obviously, it's a different story when they're actually on stage posing. Eric's back, for some reason, lacks a bit of density. Brandon's back has a ton of density, and that's just on stage, though. For some reason, in the gym, it's not translating that well. Eric's back looks insane. Brandon looks a bit shallow. I don't know. But for this comparison, Eric is insane. Like, he wins this.
More crevices than even Brandon Curry. Eric seems to have equally sized arms, but perhaps even a little bit leaner. If it were not for Eric Janicki having a slightly wider waist, I think I would give him this pose. Is it not somewhat close?
In this particular pose, I'll give it to Eric. But I know how they both look on stage. And since I have that image in my head of how they both look on stage, I can't in good conscience say that Eric has a better back than Brandon. I can't in good conscience say that Eric has a better back double bicep, a better rare shot in general than 2019 Mr. Olympia Brandon Curry. 2-time Arnold Classic champion Brandon Curry. Like, I can't say that. And Brandon has a crazy back, even for being 42 or 43, whatever he is. One of the best backs in the world, still. Maybe not one of the best rare shots, just back alone, crazy back. So, but yeah, Eric is looking great here. Like,
if Eric is close, remember, just close to a guy who's a former Mr. Olympia champion, what does that tell you? If he's anywhere...
I don't know if he's close though. So I'm gonna do something here. Let's actually let's go to Google, right? And let's type in Eric Janicki. How do you spell the guy name? Janicki. Back double bicep on stage. Let's actually see a proper stage shot. I hope no weird stuff happens, man. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to redo this entire video. So, Eric's back on stage. I want to see a stage photo, a stage shot. Is there anything with him competing on stage and showcasing the back? Nothing. So this is actually a failed attempt. Okay, so I don't see anything in terms of like a back pose of nothing. I mean, this is not on stage, but you can kind of get the point. So it's actually a really bad shot as well. Okay, well, disregard what I'm trying to do here. But I'm just trying to, let me actually see if I can do 2000 Arnold Classic. And let's actually see if this comes up with anything in terms of a back double bicep. Nothing. No. So like there's not really, at least from Google, obviously if I go to NPC News Online, I can probably find something, but there's nothing that I can see that shows his back. I don't even care if it's good lighting or whatever. I just want to see the back detail on stage. Can't really see much. I guess this is somewhat of a picture. I don't even know if this is him, to be honest. Might or might not be him. But I don't know. We can't find a good one. So let's check out Brandon Curry Arnold Classic 2025. Should specify back. Maybe that's going to make a difference if we can actually. Well, I mean, here's one. It's a thumbnail, but I just want to see like a back double. Can I actually get that? Nope. Back double. Misspelled freaking back. Of course I did. Okay, wow. So you know what? Google is horrible. It's not giving me any of the results that I'm looking for. So this is actually a completely pointless search. Here's a good look through of Brandon's waist that I was talking about before. I mean, that is insane. That is one of the craziest guys I've ever seen in my life. Look at that. Like, what even is that physique? Like, honestly, it is nuts. So Greg is comparing Eric to that. But okay, let's continue.
Remotely close to that means he could easily be an IFBB pro. Look again. Look at the shoulders, the detail, the definition. Does it not look like Eric has leaner rear delts than Brandon Curry? Look right here. Check it out. I'm just saying what I'm seeing. I don't feel I'm biased. I don't think I'm glazing anyone. I'm giving you my honest 100% feedback. And in the rear lat spread, what I do believe is Eric's worst pose is...
I don't know, man. This is crazy. Brandon looks horrible in this comparison. I'm just gonna be honest. Brandon on stage looks crazy. Like, if I just go to Brandon Curry, and honestly, like, this is years ago. I don't want to use this as a fair comparison to say anything about him in 2025, but let me actually see if we can get some better stage photos from this year's Arnold. Here's a decent, I guess, thumbnail comparison of a video that's actually not going to load up and render properly because it's just not. These thumbnail photos don't really render that well. Side pose. Here's a potential most muscular from Brandon. This is actually from this year's. I don't know, man. Brandon looks really good. He does look really good even now to today's standards. Like, he looks way better on stage than he does in the gym. I really don't know why it's not translating that well, but he does have really good physique, like really, really good physique. Although he's old, although some people might consider him washed, like, that is insane. I don't know what Olympia this is. This doesn't look like 2019. It's probably is after 2019. I don't think it was the past Olympia, being 2024. But that is one of the best rear shots I've ever seen. Like, Brandon doesn't have good quads. His quads suck. Like, I will say it. But from the side, crazy legs. I don't know how his legs translate as well as they do from the side, but they just translate very well. I mean, case in point from this year's prep, we can take a look at this side leg. Like, what is that hamstring? Like, how does he have that kind of hang? How do you have this side leg, but such underwhelming front quads. Like, I don't even know, but he somehow has that discrepancy. Anyways, crazy back, crazy rear shot, crazy development, crazy glutes, crazy hams, crazy everything. For some reason, it just doesn't translate well at all in this video. So I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying that Greg is all wrong about much of anything. I mean, he has competed way more than I have. The guy has touched PEDs and I haven't. The guy has been doing this way longer than I've probably been alive. Like, I'm not trying to say he's wrong about anything. It's just a fact of, like, you know what Brandon looks like on stage. I don't think a lot of people would compare well to Brandon on stage. But in the gym, it looks like he's comparable because the lines aren't there, the width doesn't look like it's there, the thickness isn't there. But we know it exists because we have this representation of Brandon being on stage. Like, that's such a crazy shot. Like, insane in terms of how he actually looks on stage versus what we're getting. Anyways, I'm rambling.
Weakest pose, he's again holding his own. His worst pose is almost as good as Brandon Curry. Eric doesn't quite have as wide of a V. If he had his lats go out wider to the top, smaller waist, he would have a much improved V, and he would in fact be beating.
Well, in this pose, Eric looks like he's leaving a lot on the table. Like, his back doesn't even look open. Maybe it is. I mean, he can be one of those narrow clavicle guys, but his back looks like it could open up a lot more. Like, he looks like he's almost pinching to maintain some detail in lower back crescent tree striations or something. I don't know, man. Like, does this back look like it has a lot more to go in terms of just like finishing the pose? It doesn't look like a finished pose at all.
Brandon Curry in this pose. And so are you not seeing what I'm seeing? Does this not prove my point? Next up, thigh and abdominals. And so my opinion, thigh and abdominals, very close pose. Eric has amazing abdominals. Great looking abs, obliques well formed, definition, and massive quads. Brandon Curry has slightly more width in the lats, gives him more of that V shape, but Eric definitely.
Eric looks really good. Eric looks really good. His quads are massive. Like, no one's saying Eric is a bad bodybuilder. I'm not saying that at all. But I mean, you're comparing him to Brandon Curry. Brandon didn't even show his abs in the shot. Like, he did the oblique variation. It looked like at the time of this video being used, this specific clip out of the posing video, Brandon was transitioning out of the ab and thigh to show the obliques. So he didn't even get like a proper head-on shot.
Holding his own. Picture Eric looking like this, but with even more detail. Imagine if Eric were as detailed as, say, Logan Franklin. If he truly brought the shreds. Eric is lean, he's shredded, but there is another level. Another level which Logan Franklin was able to achieve.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, anyone that can reach Logan Franklin's conditioning probably can win the Olympia. Like put Logan Franklin's conditioning on Akeem Williams, might win the Olympia. Put Logan Franklin's conditioning on Andrew Jack, might win the Olympia. On Martin Fitzwater, on Rafael Brandeo. Like, Rafael Brandeo has no weak poses, as per Tyler Mannion. 0 weaknesses. Like, nothing on him is weak. Probably a bit better in terms of presentation. He needs to work on that. Tighten up the conditioning. Like, put Logan Franklin conditioning on anyone. I guarantee you they're in the conversation to win whatever that show is, whatever they're competing in. So, like, it's a fine comparison. Everyone can be a bit leaner. Everyone can be a bit more conditioned. But, like, that's not what we saw on stage. Like, what did we see on stage, and why didn't he win? Lack of conditioning, needs better presentation. Slap conditioning on anyone, they're going to look better.
And so if he brought that kind of conditioning, it's lights out.
Of course it's lights out. Like,
Eric
of course.
has plenty of size, 250 pounds. But if he were to diet for another 1 or even 2 weeks, imagine how much leaner he could get. And finishing this with the most muscular, look, it's Eric's most muscular.
I mean, all right, I don't know what Greg is about to say. I don't know what Greg is going to say. Eric looks good. Brandon dominates. Like, Brandon decimates him. This is a crazy pose for Brandon. Like, there's no way that Greg is about to say that Eric is comparable to Brandon Curry in the most muscular. But let's see. See what he says.
Striations in the delts, the chest, the biceps, abs showing. He's literally bigger than Brandon Curry in this pose. Eric also
bigger than Brandon Curry in this pose. I'm just gonna say I don't agree. Like, what are we comparing in terms of bigger than? I'll give Eric quads. Let's actually get Brandon in the pose.
has massive.
I'll give Eric the quads, although Brandon's quads here look pretty respectable. I don't know, like, what's bigger? Eric is not bigger than Brandon. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean bigger than Brandon? Brandon looks more conditioned. Brandon's shoulders look wider. Width matters in bodybuilding. A lot of width matters in bodybuilding. Brandon has been wider on every single pose. You said it yourself. Wider on the side chest. I don't even think Eric was completely in the rear lat spread, but if that is a completed rear lat spread, it's not even close in terms of width. Brandon here is just wider, takes up more room. We know taking up room on stage matters, as per Tyler Mannion, making it a point of reference a lot of times when he's doing these comparisons between like whatever show he's comparing and critiquing and breaking down, you know, this is what the judges saw. Taking up space on stage matters a lot. Now, Eric does take up space as a big, massive dude, but I mean, I don't even know. Like, what are we saying that he has bigger over Brandon in, like, what? I don't really see it.
Quads, and I believe if he got even leaner, I can't imagine him not turning pro. What Brandon Curry has, which Eric does not have, is the minuscule looking waistline. Brandon Curry is blessed with better genetics than Eric in this, but it doesn't mean that Eric can't make up for this with increased size and definition. And guys, Eric clearly has much bigger legs than Brandon Curry. And
he does. There's a lot of guys, listen, like, this is not a knock on Eric. I mean, the fact that he's even here posing next to Brandon, there's even a conversation that he might beat Brandon in 1 or 2 poses. Like, that's insane. Like, Eric is a good bodybuilder. Great bodybuilder. Just because he came second doesn't mean he's washed. Just because he's semi-retired and came in retirement doesn't mean he should go back into retirement. The guy can win a pro card. The guy has all the size in the world. The guy can do very well at the Olympia if he's peeled his mind. I mean, we have guys who structurally sucks. Nick Walker, structure sucks. We have guys like in the past, like a freaking Branch Warren. We have guys like, I don't even know. What's that one guy? Robert. God, a guy from Poland, man. Robert something. Horrible freaking shape, but he figured it out and he plays top 10 at a couple Olympias. Robert Petrokovic or something. Anyways, it doesn't matter. We've seen guys who have lesser than structures, lesser than ideal waistlines, and just narrow and not good on paper in terms of being great bodybuilder, but they figure it out. They come in peeled out of their mind. They come in blasting freaking full, and they beat guys like Tony Freeman. They beat guys like Dexter Jackson. Genetic anomalies. These lesser than guys outwork them or outcondition them or whatever they do, outdrug them. I don't really know. Whatever they end up doing, they have the opportunity to beat these guys. These are genetic anomalies like a Brandon Curry. From just size and effort and just dieting and conditioning. It does exist. So yeah, Eric can definitely do it. Eric was a good bodybuilder. 0 people are saying he's not. I just don't think he's beating Brandon Curry in any poses. Like, this is a good most muscular, not as good as Brandon. His side chest is really good. Side chest is really good. Not as good as Brandon. Back double, back lat. I mean, Eric is good. Like, the back double is a good pose in this footage in the gym. We know on stage it's a different story. So I really can't, like, having that image in my head of what he looked like at the Arnold amateur versus Brandon at the Open. Like, I know what their backs look like. At least in terms of the stream. I wasn't there in person. I know it's different in person. If you're not there in person, you don't know what you're talking about. I get it. Whatever. I don't care. In terms of what I can see on the computer with my eyes, Brandon looks better. What?
So one person has strengths here, another person has strengths there. It's about maximizing or optimizing what your body can actually achieve. After seeing these two guys pose down, do you now see that Eric is a lot closer to his dream of earning an IFBB Pro card? It just happened that on this day, a man who was even better than Eric, he decided to show up. Imagine you dieted for months, you show up and you realize that Chris Bumstead is competing against you.
Yeah.
You end up in second. Does that mean you should give up, that you should throw in the towel because some guy who just happened to be better than you showed up on any given day? No, of course not. Just because you lose, it doesn't mean it's time to give up. The harder you had to work for it, the greater the feeling when you actually achieve it.
So it sounds like Greg is just going to go on some motivational thing right now about never giving up. And I agree. Eric has all the tools in the world to win and overcome and be a good champion and be a pro bodybuilder and probably win a pro show. I mean, Eric is a big guy and size matters. It's bodybuilding. I don't think aesthetics should be judged over just pure size and conditioning. I think size and conditioning trumps everything. I prefer an aesthetic of physique, but if that is going to be my line of thinking, then I need to focus on classic and watch classic because that's where it matters. If you're talking about open bodybuilding, the fact that Nick Walker wins shows tells you that they care about size and conditioning. So Eric's waist, like, it doesn't really matter. It matters a little bit, but it's sucked in. He does a vacuum on stage. Like, he does the best he can. Like, the guy is a good bodybuilder. Freaking great. Not out of the oven. Needs to work on the conditioning and probably needs to bring out the back a little bit. But overall, like, yeah, just tighten it up for the next show. He can definitely win a pro card this year. In the next 2 weeks, he can win a pro card. I don't know what pro shows are coming up or pro qualifiers that he can compete at or what his plans are. But he has all the tools in the world. He just needs to bring it in super shredded. So, quickly, guys, who enjoy, like, share, comment down below. Let me know what you think about Greg Doucette. Thinking that Eric is comparable to Brandon Curry. And obviously, if he should retire. I don't think he should, but what do you think? Peace out. Bye-bye.